What's going on, guys? Back with another weekly email. Sorry I missed last week due to TribeCon, but really wanted to start creating more of an emphasis around talking about training around joint flare-ups, nagging injuries, and or chronic pain. Because pain doesn't always mean you need to stop training, okay? Because that's most of our reaction when it comes to, ooh, I have shoulder pain, I have hip pain, low back pain, knee pain. I need to stop doing anything, okay? So usually it's just that movement pattern that caused the injury, especially when it comes to like low back, shoulder, knee, stuff like that. Usually you can adjust the movement pattern slightly. You can adjust your grip. You can adjust your stance, modify how we deadlift. So for example, instead of doing a conventional deadlift, you can do a trap bar deadlift or a kettlebell deadlift that changes up the movement pattern slightly. So it could cause us to not have any pain. So it's a really easy, simple as just changing up the variation. And when it comes to shoulder, the shoulder is very complex. It has a lot of different ranges of motion, abduction, adduction, external rotation, internal rotation. It can press in a variety of different degrees and pull. So there's always a way to work around an injury. That's what I want to kind of stress to y'all the most. And if we need ways, we're here. So we're here full time. My whole job is to make sure y'all are staying healthy. And if we do run into some issues, finding ways to train around injuries or things that happen in life, whether they be in the gym or outside the gym. My goal is to make sure y'all see progress. So if you ever have questions or an injury pops up or something, a certain movement patterns bothering you, always feel free to call, text, come up to me in the office, come up to me when I'm out in the gym, let me know, and we'll walk through how we can continue to move as we work on that nagging issue, okay? Because my job, again, is to make sure y'all are healthy, to make sure y'all are continually seeing progress and addressing any injuries that may pop up along our journey towards that. So in reality, the goal is usually just to modify the training, not to eliminate it. So for example, if we have issues horizontal pressing, then we can try some vertical pressing. And a lot of times, if we have issues horizontal pressing, vertical pressing is fine. If we have issues vertical pressing, then we can go to more of a 45 degrees, so like an incline bench or a landmine press, or just stick to horizontal pressing. Okay, so usually, again, I say usually, not always, if one pressing variation gives us some issues, there's multiple different other pressing variations we can try. And if all of them are giving us issues, then you can go to strictly rowing movements, because rowing is using different muscles than you use for pressing, okay? Main movers, really. So technically the same muscles, but technically different. So rowing, if that's not causing us pain, then we stick to rowing movements, okay? Or pulling movements. And that's, again, just making sure we continue to train what we can train as we address the issue of what caused us to have that flare-up, okay? Because usually the flare-ups happen because we increase volume too quickly. We try to load that our tissue wasn't ready for. Our technique was not right, or we're just getting back into training and we're just having those initial onsets of, hey, my joints are starting to get reintroduced, kind of reconditioned to these kind of movement patterns, to this kind of intensity, stuff like that. So the body often responds best when we keep moving in smart ways rather than resting completely, okay? Because what happens when we rest completely, so if it's a muscle issue, that muscle will die, like the muscle obviously eventually, relax, and we won't have that pain stimulus anymore after a long period of time because we're just not using that muscle. So it kind of like, usually when we overload a muscle, it tightens up, and that's where the spasms come from. So usually when we take time off for a long period of time, then that helps alleviate it. But what you're doing is you're deconditioning that muscle. So when you come back, it's going to be that much harder to get back to where you were, especially if you try to jump back in. And then we're more at risk for overloading that tissue. Okay, so that's why just reducing the load, changing up the variation helps a lot if we do have a muscle issue. Now, tendon and ligament issue is a little bit different. So if it's that pain, that nagging pain is not going away, and even with rest, then it's most likely a tendon and ligament. Now, this is not to say that, you need to go have surgery or anything like that. What it's saying is tendons and ligaments respond to load. Okay, now a controlled load. not making sure we overload it, make sure we have the appropriate load to help it recover. Okay, so tendons and ligaments, for example, like our shoulder. If we have something going on, a tendon and ligament in our shoulder, usually you're going to see it, especially with us, you're going to see it kind of, that bicep femoris area, or you're going to see it in posterior shoulder, subscap, so beneath our shoulder blades. That's what our scapula is, our shoulder blade, okay? Usually, you're going to want to provide load you're going to provide load to it to increase blood flow to that area, because tendons and ligaments respond best to blood flow. So if we stop doing everything altogether, that tendon and ligament's not going to get a lot of blood flow. It's not going to recover. It's going to take that much longer to recuperate. And then you're going to try to jump back in after you wait for 6-8 weeks, and then it's going to come back. Okay? So you got to have to make sure you maintain a load that is appropriate to you, and will, on a scale of 1 to 10, stay below a level of 5. Okay, so how we approach that in Prime is to do a lot more isometrics and eccentric training, because that helps us prepare our muscles and our tendons and ligaments for the forces and things that we're going to put on it through more explosive movements, i.e. hang squat cleans, or jumping, or running and stuff like that, or push press, or just any quick motion. Involves a lot of making sure our muscles are prepared for it and our tendons and ligaments. So how we prepare for that is with eccentric and isometric movements. And this is also a lot of how you kind of rehab and recover from a nagging issue or injury is eccentric and isometric movements, because what you're doing is just, one, it's a lot of central nervous system stuff. So your brain's talking to your muscles, telling us, hey, this movement actually doesn't hurt. You can do this movement in this controlled fashion, or isometric, and we're just producing a lot of blood flow, which again helps recovery over time. Again, all this is appropriate load. So that's not, when I say like your tendons and ligaments need load, it's not saying like let's go load up max weight. It means that we need to provide some kind of stimulus to it to make sure that it's recovering. If you provide no stimulus to it, then it actually deconditions and gets worse. Okay, and then again, if you don't believe me, you can ask any PT and they will tell you the same exact thing. Okay, so my mindset when it comes to chronic issues is PTs are meant for acute injuries, as well as in conjunction with working with a strength coach, chronic injury. So that's why we partner with Non PT so much, because we have a great working relationship and have the same understanding of what that applies to. So strength coaches should help us with our chronic issues, trying to work around those things so we can continue to see progress. Okay, so if we're not doing that, then tell me and we will make sure we do that. Okay, so one of the biggest mistakes people can make when a joint flares up is completely avoid movement. So just in summary of what I said, most cases the better strategy is learning how to train around the issue while still improving tissue health. Okay, so that basically just summarizes everything I said. Step 1 is modifying the movement. Okay, so change the stress, not eliminate it. So that means we need to modify the range of motion, modify the load, modify the exercise selection, or modify volume and tempo. Okay, all those things are factors when it comes to working around changing up the stress and the stimulus around a certain flare-up or something like that. So like I said, examples are if we have knee pain with squats, then we can swap to more of a eccentric loaded box squat or squat to bench. Control the range of motion there and be very slow with it, because again, providing a load with a heavy eccentric motion, so a 3 or 4 count, really just produces a lot of tendon stiffness, circulation, as opposed to moving really fast in and out of a squat position. And then shoulder irritation depends on kind of what caused the shoulder irritation. But for example, let's say we have a shoulder irritation from barbell bench, then we can try to, from a specific grip, then we can try to change it up to neutral grip, bring those elbows in instead of way out here. Y'all can see it. Neutral grip allows us to bring our elbows really in and work on that range of motion right there. And that's just one thing. Again, if we could change it to just strictly like really reducing the load a lot and just changing to a landmine press or like an overhead press if we have issues with horizontal pressing. And then back irritation. So let's say that injury occurs or flare-up occurs while we're doing a barbell deadlift, then we swap to a trap bar deadlift. If we're doing a conventional deadlift, i.e. how we normally stand, you could swap up and even change your foot position to a sumo deadlift, or change the bar entirely to a trap bar deadlift, or just do a kettlebell And then you don't even have to deadlift. So you could also change to more of a hip thrust variation, because that's going to decrease stress on the lower lumbar altogether. As long as we're making sure we're engaging our core, driving through our heels, really engaging our glutes and hamstrings. So the goal is to find a pain-free or low pain version of the movement pattern. Okay, so finding what we can work in, what range of motion we can work in, what load we can use, what exercise selection we have, and then what volume and tempo allows us to train below, on a scale of 1 to 10, below level 5 pain stimulus. Okay, so we're not avoiding the movement pattern forever. We're temporarily adjusting the way we load it. So that's a great way of, again, summarizing everything I just said. So hopefully this is a good start. Next week I'm going to talk about how we use isometrics to calm down irritated tissues, like how that works, the science behind it. So hopefully all that helps. Again, if you did watch this video, which I hope most of you are, please feel free to come to me with any nagging issues that we have, i.e. outside of like a complete muscle tear or something like that, to where we need more of an acute response. But something that, is just a flare-up, we definitely can work around that and also help alleviate the symptoms that we have with that flare-up by changing up, again, everything I said, from range of motion, load, exercise selection, volume and tempo, and intensity. Okay, so hopefully that's not you, and hopefully we're able to train smart. Again, listening to the coaches, so listening to Eli and Riley when we say like, hey, this is not a max day. And that really applies to the stress and load throughout the whole week. If we try to go too heavy on certain days when it just says build to a 3-rep heavy, and we try to do a 3-rep max and fail on the last rep, that changes up the whole stress for a whole week. So there's a lot of complexity to that. And again, we're not, we're all mostly above 30 years old here now. So it's, we're thinking about training for long term. So let's train smart and just make sure we can do this for a long time. Okay. So hopefully y'all have a good week. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.